Sri Chinmay Sadguruvai Namaha. Hello students. Children, up to your 8th class, you have only 3 parts. Geography, history and social political life. From your 9th class onwards, you are going to learn about your new part of our social science, that is economics. In today's class, I am going to discuss with you about the first lesson of our economics part, the story of village Palampur. This is here imaginary village Palampur. It is not in real. Just to explain about the economic activities of rural India. So in our textbook they have discussed. Economics is nothing but the study of economic activities. It included trade activities. It included imports and exports. It included revenue, tax calculations, everything related to money we are going to discuss in our economics part, children. Follow the textbook carefully, children. Palampur as an imaginary village. Farming is the main activity in Palampur, whereas several other activities such as small-scale manufacturing, dairy, transport, etc. are carried out on a limited scale. These production activities need various types of resources, natural resources. Here, Palampur is well connected with neighboring villages and towns. So Raiganj, a big village, is 3 kilometers from the Palampur, and all weather road connects the village to Raiganj and further to the nearest small town of Shapu. If you take the example like Kindukurpeta, Kottur and Nellore. So if Kottur is like Palampur, and nearest town is here Indukurpet, and nearest city is here Nellore. So here many kinds of transports are visible on this road, starting from bullock carts to tangas, bogies, and wooden cart drawn by buffaloes we call as bogies here, and loaded with jaggery and other commodities to motor vehicles like motorcycles, jeeps, tractors and trucks. It is a small village and well connected with neighboring villages and towns. So main occupation of the village people is agriculture. In the village, total 450 families belonging to several different caste people, and among them 80 upper caste families own the majority of land in the village. Their houses, some of them quite large, are made of brick and cement plastering. The Dalits comprise 1/3 of the population and live in one corner of the village and in much smaller houses, some of which are mud and straw like a hut. So most probably in every village these types of houses are very common. It is a small village containing only 450 families. So among them 80 families are belongs to the upper caste families, and only those people have the lands for cultivation. Here electricity powers all the tube wells in the fields and is used in various types of small business. Palampur has 2 primary schools and 1 high school. For every village level, we have 2 primary schools and 1 is high school in mandal level. So there is a primary healthcare center run by the government and 1 private dispensary where the sick are treated. So here public healthcare centers also available, which is established by the government. This is a briefly about the village of Palampur. Total 450 families are living together. This is the view of the village. Huts and the tangas and tractors are going on the road to the nearest place for the selling purpose. The description above shows that Palampur has fairly well developed system of roads, transport, electricity, irrigation, schools and healthcare centers. Compare these facilities with those in your nearby village. The story of Palampur, an imaginary village, will take us through the different types of production activities in the village. In villages across India, farming is the main production activity. The other production activities referred to as non-farm activities include small manufacturing, transport, shopkeeping, etc. We shall take a look at both these types of activities after learning a few general things about the production. So, what is meant by production? What is the relation between the production and the economy? Now we are going to learn. Here, the aim of production is to produce the goods and services that we want. What is meant by production? First of all, produce any kind of goods or thing or object we call as production. Production of services also. Service is nothing but by giving our service we are earning money. So that what we called as production. Understood? And there are three requirements for production of goods and services. The first one is land, second one is labor, third one is physical capital. So these are the three important requirements what we need to produce any goods. What is the first one? Land. Second one is labor. Third one is physical capital. And fourth one, again physical capital further divided into two parts. One is fixed capital, another one is working capital. So we have four requirement too for the production, that is human capital. Land, labor, physical capital, again physical capital into fixed capital and working capital, after that human capital. These are the main important major things to produce any goods. For example, to produce paddy, what we need for cultivation purpose, we need land. Labor, so to do all agricultural activities we need labor. So physical capital, here fixed capital like tractors and tools, utensils, those all we need. Working capital also we need money, we need human capital. So without these all the things we never produce any goods. So that these are the main four major components what we need to produce any goods. What is the first one here? Land. So land is the first requirement, and other natural resources such as water, forest, minerals, these all what we call as raw material and primary things what we need. For cultivation we need land, for construction building we need land, for to establish any industry we need land. So after that we need some raw materials also. The first primary thing is land. Without land we cannot do anything. And the second thing is labor. So if the land is sufficient to us to produce goods, is the land alone itself, it can cultivate the land, it can sowing the seeds, or it can applying the chemicals, nothing. So what we need to do these all works, we need labor. Labor also very important to us. See, some activities require fully qualified workers and highly educated workers to perform necessary tasks. Workers are two types, fully educated and fully qualified. For example, to drive a car, what we need? We need a qualified, fully experienced, work-based experience we need there. And to run any machinery or to operate any machinery or to repair any machinery, we need here highly educated workers. So qualified workers there. Again, to perform to managing, to guiding, to do the export activities, for that what we need highly educated workers for that activity. So that some activities require only workers who have the physical capacity like laborers, and but in every activity labor is vital. So to applying, to carrying goods, for everything we need labor only. Whatever, so either qualified or educated, the physical capital, labor is playing vital role in the production. What is the third important component? I said physical capital. Physical capital. Physical capital again divided into fixed capital and working capital. Here fixed capitals like tools, machines and buildings can be used in production over many years and are called as fixed capital. Tools and machines range from very simple tools such as a farmer's plough to sophisticated machines. The big machineries comes under machinery only. These all are fixed capital. Fixed capital means once we invest money on that capital, need not to invest, need not to purchase again and again. For example, if we purchase tractor, for every time of cultivation, need not to purchase tractor again and again. Yes or no? At the same time, if you see uh, raw materials, so if once raw material is completed, again we have to purchase the raw material. So that raw material should not consider as the fixed capital, but all the tools and machineries, buildings comes under fixed capital only. So here sophisticated machines including generator, turbines, computers. So these are the fixed assets to us. Here I mentioned a few. What are the fixed assets here? Land, fixed capital. Building, constructing building, fixed capital. Factories, fixed capital. And furniture, fixed capital. And equipment, tools and machinery, fixed capital. Once if we invest money on those things, need not to purchase again and again. In the duration, long period of time, we have to spend some money for the maintenance purpose is enough. So fiscal, all tools and machineries, buildings comes under fixed capital. In the fiscal capital, next one is working capital. Production requires a variety of raw materials like yarn used by the weaver and clay used by the potter. Also some money always required during production to make payments and buy other necessary materials. So what is the working capital? As I told, raw material, working capital. Hand in the money, working capital. Yarn used by the weaver, working capital. And the clay used by the potter, working capital. So we need some payments to pay labor charges, to purchase raw materials, to paying electricity bills. So like money is working capital. So we need some working capital also. And raw materials and money in the hand are working capital, as unlike tools, machines and buildings, these are used up in productions. Raw material money also used for production, and tools and machinery is also using for production. But raw materials and money, once we use that one, they exhausted. Again we have to earn the, again we have to set up those things for reproduction. But whereas tools and machineries need not to purchase again and again at the every time of the production. If once purchase means they need not to purchase again and again. So that this is what we call as a working capital. What is the importance of working capital? See here. It is important to work out the right level of working capital you will need. If the working capital is too high, business has surplus funds which are not earning a return, and low may indicate that your business is facing financial difficulties. If we are showing our working capital is high, our business working in a profitable way. If our working capital is low, then it indicates that our business is in the loss, we are in the economic difficulties, financial difficulties. So that to forecast the optimum working capital requirement, the following formula may be used for that one. What is the one? Estimated cost of goods sold into operating cycle plus desired cash balance. Operating cycle here, duration of the operating cycle, most probably we are taking for 1 year. O is equal to raw materials plus work in process period 6 months or 3 months. What is the stock of the finished goods storage period, and D for debtors collection period, and C for creditors payment period. So how many credits given by us, how much amount collected by us, so how much product stock piled in the storage godowns. So the, to know the industry's future and economic value, working capital calculation is very important to us. What is the next important physical capital? That is human capital. Human resource is the one and only resource which made all the resources what we need artificially. Understood? We can also say this the fourth requirement. We will need knowledge and enterprise to be able to put together land, labor and physical capital and produce an output. This these days is called the human capital. Understood? So what I told, the land alone, a physical capital alone or a machinery alone not working themselves. Yes sir, no. So that to operate those all the things in a proper way, we need one person, who is the person is nothing but human capital. Human is ultimate resource for the economic development. Based on the knowledge of the human resource, either the development or deficit of the company will be depends. So every production is organized by combining of land, labor, physical capital and human capital, which are known as factors of production. So which are known as factors of production, very very important one here. What is meant by factors of productions, or what are called as factors of production? Combining of land, labor, physical capital and human capital are known as factors of production. And here human capital, you observe the picture here. A factory with several levers and machines. So many machines are there, many raw materials available here, and to operate these all the things in a proper way to complete the production, what we need this important one, nothing but human resource. So in the picture, identify the land, labor, fixed capital used in. So land, all the machineries they put on the land, and fixed capital is machineries, and the working capital is raw materials what they are using, and human capital who is working on the machinery. Understood? Without these all the things, is it possible to produce the yarn or cloths here? No. So that to produce any goods, we need these all the things. And the final summary is here. Every production is organized by combining land, labor, physical capital and human capital, which are known as factors of production. As we read through the story of Palampur, we will learn more about the first three factors of production: land, labor, physical capital. For convenience, we will refer to the physical capital as the capital in this chapter. Then now I am going to you explain about the lesson part. Coming to the lesson, what is the situations for and scope for farming in Palampur? Here land is fixed. Not only in Palampur, everywhere land is fixed. Year to year we are unable to increase our land because land is a fixed capital to us, fixed asset. So we are unable to improve our land day to day because land are limited. And farming is the main production activity in Palampur. 75% of the people who are working are dependent on farming for their livelihood here. Means 2/3 people of the village, 3/4 of the people are depends on farming only. They could be farmers or farm laborers. So those who have the land little bit, they are cultivating their own land. Otherwise, the rest of all the people, they depends upon the agriculture works as a labor. The well-being of these people is closely related to production on the farms. But remember that there is a basic constraint in raising from production. Land area under cultivation is practically fixed. Since 1960 in Palampur, there has been no expansion in land area under cultivation. By then, some of the wastelands in the village had been converted to cultivable land. There exists no further scope to increase farm production by bringing new land under cultivation. So in the year 1960 onwards, completely land is fixed. There is no land to increase more and more. So if we have the little bit land, due to the overpopulation, the lands are expanded for settlements only, not for cultivation, because all lands are not suitable for cultivation. The standard unit of measuring land is hectare. Though in the villages you may find large area being discussed in local units such as Biga, Gunta, etc. 1 hectare is equal to area of a square with one side measuring 100 meters. Can you compare the area for a 1 hectare field with the area of your school ground? How many hectares your school ground will be? Entire school field. How much area occupied our school you have to calculate. So these small bagas or guntas are in local language we called for our acre of land. Land is fixed in Palampur. So these are the summary of the land fixed here. Farming is main activity in Palampur. 75% of the village population depends on land only, either directly or indirectly. But there is a constant rise in population, so the wasteland also converted into cultivable land a few years back. Now there exists no land to convert to a cultivatable land. Now there is no lands to cultivate it, so that rest of the people, they are unable to cultivate the land, so that they work as a agriculture labor. Lands are fixed. Then how to cultivate more crops? That is the question. How to cultivate more crops? Is it possible to cultivate more crops within a day? No. Within a year? No. Then how to reach the goal to increase more crops according to the population growth? See here. First method is crop rotation. During the rainy season, farmers grow jowar and bajra. These plants are used as cattle feed. It is followed by cultivation of potato between October and December. In winter season, fields are sown with wheat. From the wheat produced, farmers keep enough wheat for the family's consumption and sell the surplus wheat at the market in Raiganj. Apart from a part of the land area is also devoted for sugarcane, which is harvested once every year. Sugarcane is not in its raw form or as jaggery is sold to the traders of Shapo. Well-developed system of irrigation. Electricity came early to Palampur. Its major impact was to transform the system of irrigation. People saw that the electric run tube wells could irrigate much larger areas of land more effectively. As a result, by mid-1970s, the entire cultivated area of 200 hectares was irrigated. So how to increase the lands for growing population is a question mark. How to increase? By following mixed cropping method, and here they followed alternately. In one season they cultivated jowar and bajra, another season they cultivated potatoes and wheat, and another season, third season, they completely leave for the sugarcane cultivation for the purpose of jaggery to send to the nearest industries as a raw material for jaggery making. To grow more than one crop on piece of land during the year is known as multiple cropping. What is the first method? Multiple cropping. So the first method is here, multiple cropping. The best way to increase the cultivation or yield is within the same piece of land. It is the most common way increasing production on which given piece of land. All farmers in Palampur grow at least two main crops. Many are growing potato as the third crop in the past 15 or 20 years. These are the main crops of the Palampur: wheat, bajra, sugarcane and potato are the major crops for entire three cropping seasons. So not all villages in India have such high levels of irrigation. So if you observe the cultivation from Kottu to 7th mile or 6th mile up to Davis Spade. So entire lands every day they are cultivating any type of crops. No day, single day without any crop we can observe that. Yes or no? So because how it is possible? Because of the good irrigation facilities and the soil fertility and kept by the people, and this plain area suitable for the cultivation here. So riverine plains, coastal regions in our country are well irrigated. Our Nellore district also well irrigated due to the coastal region. In contrast, plateau regions such as the Deccan Plateau have low levels of irrigation. Of the total cultivated area in the country, a little less than 40% is irrigated even today. In the remaining areas, farming is largely dependent on rainfall. If you observe the areas like Rajasthan, Gujarat or Madhya Pradesh, crops are very less due to their lands are filled with sand and the minerals plateau areas, so that only plain areas are suitable for cultivation. What are the main uh, advantages because of multiple cropping? What is meant by multiple cropping? In agriculture, multiple cropping is the practice of growing two or more crops in the same piece of land during a single growing season. It is a form of polyculture. So if you observe some people in one row, they cultivated paddy, and the row they cultivated groundnuts or shamgan or groundnuts or chilies. Alternatively, in the same piece of land at the same time, to strengthen the soil fertility, sometimes they are using multiple cropping method, so that one crop will give strengthen the soil fertility, another crop conserving the soil fertility. So mix multiple cropping method is the best method to increase the production within the same piece of land. It is the practice of intensification of cropping system in time and space dimension, that is more number of crops within a year and more number of crops in the same piece of land is possible only in multiple cropping method. So what are the main advantages because of the multiple cropping? With multiple cropping, the risk of total loss from drought, pest and diseases is reduced. Some of the crops can survive and produce a yield. It gives maximum production from small plots. This can help farmers cope with the land shortages. So due to this multiple cropping system, the risk of total loss from drought, pest and disease is reduced, because different crops are cultivating for different climatical conditions. At the same time, it gives maximum production from small plots, and including legume type of crops like nitrogen giving crops like potatoes, as well as to the groundnuts. These strengthen the soil fertility, so that by using these legumes in the cropping pattern helps maintain soil fertility by fixing nitrogen in the soil. These are very helpful to strengthen the soil fertility. Only this is happening in multiple cropping only. Is there any way to grow more crops on the same field? Exactly is there. If we use modern inputs like high yield variety seeds, fertilizers, modern farming machineries, pesticides, irrigating using modern facilities, just we will get more crops. For example, within the same piece of land in 1990s or in 1970s, how many hectares of crop, how many kgs or quintals of crop we are getting from the same piece of land, hectares. Now, what is the crop we are getting from the same piece of land? Here land is fixed, but cultivating methods are different. Now we are using modern cultivating methods, so that we are getting more crops than the earlier. Now we are using hybrid seeds. We are applying chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides, and advanced machinery using by us. So advanced submarine pump sets using by us. We have the more irrigation facilities now, so that automatically we are getting good yields within the same piece of land by following modern farming methods. See here, these are by using tractors, threshers, and here chemicals made in industries, and the electricity, everything. So these all the things made our cropping system very successfully, and we reach the crops whatever we need, and now we are in self-consumption position. We are able to cultivate the crops according to the needs of the entire nation's people, self-consumption purpose only. Look at the table here, children. How much area cultivated over the years from 1950 to 2011. So in 1915, these all are in million hectares. The area 120. In 1960, it was increased by 10 million hectares. Now, at that time 130. From 1970 onwards up to 2020, the cultivated land is only 140 million hectares, and there is no change in this. Yes or no? And then now, what is the population of the country in the year 1970, 90, 2000 or 2011, and now 2020? 1970 the population is only 67 crores, whereas in 2020 our population is 136 crores, means approximately doubled, but the land is fixed, only 140 million hectares. Then how to cultivate the crops according to the needs of the double population of the lands are fixed, but we are consuming? Yes or no? How it is possible? Only due to the modern cultivation methods. See here in this graph, children. In 1950, 120 only, same. 1960, 130. From 1970 to 2010, the lands are fixed, 140. There is no adjustment here. Whatever the lands cultivated in the 1970 is the same land is cultivating still in 2020. Is it important to increase the area under irrigation? Why? You have read about the crops grown in Palampur. So why it is important to cultivate the more lands? Means we have to grow the crops according to the population growth, so that we have to increase the area under the irrigation. Here small activity to you. Based on the nearest place to you, almost all your parents or your neighborhood, they have the idea about this one. What are the crops cultivated in your area? Which month that crops will be sown? Which month they are coming to the harvest? And what are the sources of irrigation used by them? Among these all, if any others also you can mention. Try to write 3 or 4 here. Complete this activity. This table is there in your textbook part only. You have seen that one way of increasing production by using multiple cropping system. The other way is to use modern farming methods. As I told, now I explained you about the high yield variety seeds, machinery, and advanced irrigation facilities. Till mid-1960s, the seeds used in cultivation were traditional one with relatively low yields. It gives very less crop to the people. And with the introduction of the Green Revolution in the 1960s, the Indian farmer took cultivation of wheat and rice using high yield variety seeds. Compared to the traditional seeds, these high yield variety seeds promise to produce much greater amount of grain on a single plant. So that is the main reason still we are cultivating only 140 million acres of land, but it is sufficient to 136 crore Indian population. That is the main reason, due to the green revolution because of high yield variety seeds. If you observe now, so plants, trees are very small, but it gives a large yield to the uh, farmer. So that what happened because of this high yield varieties within the less piece of land, we are getting more yield. That is the main reason behind that. We are cultivating 140 million acres of land still today, but due to the green revolution, that is sufficient for entire nation's people. High yield variety seeds, however, needed plenty of water. That is the drawback here. They need high irrigation facilities. And compulsory we have to apply the chemical fertilizer and pesticides to produce best result, because without chemicals and fertilizers, the common ordinary soil cannot gives the more strength to the high yield variety seeds sufficient strength, so that they are not giving good yield if we are using high yield variety seeds also. So definitely we have to use fertilizers and pesticides to get better result. Higher yields were possible only from a combination of high yield variety seeds, irrigation, chemical fertilizers and pesticides, etc. The who introduced first this program in our country? Farmers of Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh were the three states first tried out the modern farming method in our India. Because as you know that Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh are located in the very fertile northern plains, so that abundant irrigation facilities available because of the Ganga river system, Yamuna river system and Indus river system. So that these three states successfully they launched green revolution first time in our country in the year 1965. And the farmers in this region set up tube well in for irrigation and made use of high yield variety seeds, chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Some of them bought farm machinery like tractors and threshers, which made ploughing harvesting faster. They were rewarded with high yields of wheat. In Palampur, the yield of wheat grown from the traditional varieties was 1300 kg per hectare, whereas with the high yield variety seeds, it went up to 3200 kg per hectare. For only 1 hectare, 2000 nearly 900 kgs here. Sorry, 2000 kgs means 1900 kgs exactly variation between them. Yes or no? Where is 1300? Where is 3200? So a lot of variation means almost all. It gives 2.5 times more yield because of high yield variety seeds. So there was a large increase in the production of wheat. Farmers now had greater amounts of surplus wheat to sell in the market because of the using of this green revolutionary system in Haryana, Punjab and Western Uttar Pradesh. When it was started first time in our country, Green Revolution. In 1965, the government of Mrs. Indira Gandhi as a Prime Minister of India decided to major steps and agriculture conditions. Thus, Green Revolution was applied to the period from 1967 to 78, basically in the parts of Haryana and Punjab. At this stage, concern was on wheat and rice only. Dr. M.S. Swaminathan from India led Green Revolution as a project. He is the first person who introduced Green Revolution in our India. And what kind of methods are used in Green Revolution? As I told now, multiple cropping system, seeds with superior genetics, high yield varieties, and proper irrigation system, high yield variety seeds, pesticides and fertilizers, modern machinery, and expansion of farming areas. So these all included in the Green Revolution. It has a lot of advantages. At the same time, it has some negative effects also. What are the positive impact on our agriculture? Increase in production, and it causes to capitalistic farming, and it provides more employment opportunities for rural area people. so that import of food grains we can export to other countries also. And we give raw materials for industries, so that automatically it causes to development of industries, and raw material cost also decreased due to the plenty of raw materials, and it causes to economic growth of the nation. And thinking of farmers, so almost they are improving the positive thinking, and they ready to cultivate more and more crops by using high yield variety seeds. These are the major advantages. What are the disadvantages here? And because of green revolution, most of the times what we are using chemicals and fertilizers, and these chemicals and fertilizers causes to pollution and erosion, soil erosion, and also it polluted the groundwater. Unemployment among the uneducated farmers, so there is how they agriculture farmers must have to know how to use these high yield variety seeds, so that uneducated farmers lost their employment opportunities. And here it causes to some deadly diseases also. Over consumption of the chemicals and fertilizers causes to respiratory problems, as well as to the gastroenteric problems. Many problems have occurs due to the overconsumption of the chemicals and fertilizers. And harmful for farmers, using of the chemicals is very harmful for farmers. Consumption may be adverse effect, so that these are the main disadvantages due to the green revolution. Once look at the textbook, children. What is the difference between multiple cropping and modern farming method? You have to write these all questions in your classwork only. And the following table shows the production of wheat and pulses in India after the Green Revolution. In units of millions tons, plot this on a graph. Was the Green Revolution equally successful for both the crops? Discuss what is the working capital required by the farmer using modern farming methods. See here, I will explain this table. Based on that, you will write the questions. Production of pulses in the year 65-66, only 10 million tons. Wheat also 10 million. 70-71, gradually it is going to be increased. 12-24, again here decreased. 11-36, 14-55, 11-70, 18-86, and 2012 and 18-92. So it gives more positive effect only in the production of wheat than the pulses. And modern farming methods requires the farmer to start with more cash than before. Why? Because whenever we are adopting modern farming method, always we have to invest more and more money, because these advanced technology always expensive to us. And here one activity is there. If it is possible, do it, children. Otherwise, no need to do. We will do later. During your field visit, talk to some farmers of your region. Find out what kind of farming methods, modern or traditional or mixed farming methods, means it including traditional and modern, used by them. Write a note based on the cultivation of the farmer of particular one. What are the sources of irrigation they are using? How much land is cultivated by them? So what kind of crops they are cultivating in that crop? You have to find out, children. Here, non-farm sector is not very large. 24/100 are only engaged in that. Lack of capital is the problem in the village, and they are depending only on money lenders. So lack of market is another limitation for non-farming activities in this, and they are depending on other places for many items. In the village can be connected to towns with good roads, transport, and the telecommunications, and it is possible that the production of every village can be increased. Thank you very much, children. Hari Om. I hope every one of you understood what is production, what are the main factors that influence production, how to get good yields within the same piece of land. Everything I hope you everyone understood. Read the textbook thoroughly 1 or 2 times. Hari Om, children. Thank you very much. Stay home, stay safe.